Hello everyone, welcome to part 1 of our Cardiothoracic lecture series. Today we'll be talking about the heart and talking about heart anatomy. Looking forward to sharing as much information as I can about this, and good luck on studying cardiothoracic surgery. The mediastinum is the space between the right and left pleural cavities. It is well protected by the sternum, ribs, and vertebral column. The diaphragm, which is the principal muscle of respiration, is what separates the mediastinum from the abdominal region below. Key structures within the mediastinum are the trachea, which is part of the respiratory system, the esophagus, which is part of the gastrointestinal tract, the thymus gland, which supports the endocrine system, the heart, and the great vessels, which include the aorta, the superior vena cava, the pulmonary artery, and the pulmonary vein. The great vessels are vessels that have a direct connection to the heart. The heart functions as the pump for our peripheral vascular system. It pumps simultaneously for both the pulmonary and systemic circuits. The size of a person's heart is about the size of their fist. It is situated slightly left of midline, with the apex of the heart located inferiorly and on the left side. The heart rests behind the sternum and on top of the diaphragm. It is surrounded by a protective covering called pericardium. Two types of protective tissue make up the pericardium. The first is fibrous, and it attaches to the great vessels but not to the heart itself, and it's very inelastic. The second type of pericardial tissue is a double-layered serous membrane containing cells that produce a slippery liquid called pericardial fluid. The two layers are the parietal, which is on the outside, and visceral, which attaches to the heart itself. The space in between the two layers is called the pericardial space and contains pericardial fluid that reduces friction and allows the heart to easily contract. The outer wall of the heart is called the epicardium, and is composed of visceral pericardium. The inner lining of the heart is called the endocardium, and it lines all of the heart's chambers and valves. The thick middle layer is called the myocardium. It makes up the bulk of the heart wall, and is composed of specially constructed cardio-muscle cells. This type of muscle is not subject to fatigue like skeletal muscle. The myocardium is able to conduct electrical impulses and contracts to force blood from the heart's chambers.
The right atrium of the heart receives deoxygenated blood from the body from two large veins, the superior and inferior vena cava. Also, blood from the coronary veins are channeled through the coronary sinus into the right atrium. The right side of the heart also pumps deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery, which divides leading to the right and left lungs. Gas exchange is made between the capillary beds and the alveoli of the lungs. CO2 is released, and oxygen is taken in. We will discuss this process in more detail in the pulmonary thoracic lecture video later. The blood is then sent back to the left side of the heart via two pulmonary veins stemming from each lung. The left side of the heart pumps oxygenated blood to all tissues of the body, including the heart itself. It may help to think of the atria as receiving chambers and the ventricles as pumping chambers. As you can see in the illustration, the myocardium, or muscle layer of the heart, is considerably thicker within the ventricles. In particular, the left ventricle must contract with enough force to send oxygenated blood to the farthest reaches of the body. The heart chambers are separated by the interatrial and interventricular septums. 4 heart valves are located inside the heart that ensures the one-way flow of blood through the chambers. Located between the right atrium and the right ventricle is the tricuspid valve. Between the left atrium and the left ventricle is the bicuspid valve, Another commonly used name for the bicuspid valve is the mitral valve. Two additional valves are the pulmonary valve between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery, and the aortic valve between the left ventricle and the aorta. Atrioventricular valves have either 2 or 3 flaps of endocardium attached to a ring-shaped annulus. Cord-like tendons called chordae tendineae attach the cusps to the papillary muscles within the ventricles. The pulmonic and aortic valves have 3 moon-shaped cusps that open and close to control the flow of blood into the pulmonary and systemic circulations. Vital heart muscle, or the myocardium, is delivered oxygen-rich blood through the coronary circulation. The left and right coronary arteries are the first branches from the aorta, and they are located at the aortic root. All other coronary arteries are branches of these 2 main arteries. The narrow coronary arteries and their branches are common sites for atherosclerotic plaque to collect. Plaque can partially or totally block the arteries, causing ischemia to heart muscle. When myocardium is starved of oxygen, it causes angina or a myocardial infarction, which is the medical term for a heart attack. The coronary veins generally parallel the path of the coronary arteries. It is collected in the coronary sinus on the posterior of the heart and is returned to the right atrium. The cardiac conduction system is a group of specialized cardiac muscle cells that send signals to the heart muscle, causing it to contract. The main components of the cardiac conduction system are the sinoatrial node, the atrioventricular node, the bundle of His, the bundle branches, and through the Purkinje fibers. The SA node, also known as the anatomical pacemaker, starts the sequence by causing the atrial muscles to contract. From there, the signal travels to the AV node and then spreads through the bundle of His and down the left and right bundle branches. Finally, the Purkinje fibers, located within the ventricles, are signaled to contract. The signal creates an electrical current that can be seen on a graph called an electrocardiogram, or EKG. Doctors use an EKG to monitor the cardiac conduction system's electrical activity in the heart. This electrical activity occurs between 60 to 100 times each minute in a normal adult's resting heart. A steady, regular heartbeat is so vital that it is under control of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, you ready for the condensed version? Let's go with a little summary here.
We'll start with the basics and examine how the human heart works. The heart is a muscle about the size of a clenched fist that is located under the rib cage in between the lungs. It is divided into a left side and a right side. Each side has 2 chambers. The upper chambers are called atria, and the lower chambers are called ventricles. Blood flows from the atria to the ventricles through one-way valves. The atria and the ventricles work together as a team to pump blood through the heart. The right atrium receives oxygen-depleted blood from the body and pushes it into the right ventricle, which pumps it out to the lungs. Oxygen-enriched blood is returned from the lungs to the left atrium, which pushes it into the left ventricle, where it is pumped back out to the body. After the body has used all the oxygen in the blood returns to the heart, and the cycle repeats. In a normal heart, this sequence occurs 60 to 100 times per minute. The heart's beating rhythms are driven by electrical impulses within the heart. In a normal heart rhythm, electrical signals originate in the heart's natural pacemaker, the sinoatrial node, also called SA node. These electrical signals travel from the atria to the ventricles in a defined rhythmic pattern. The electrical signals pass through the atrioventricle, or AV node. The AV node acts as a natural gatekeeper for the heart, through which all the heart's electrical signals normally pass. The electrical signals then pass through the bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers, which cause the heart muscles to contract. There are many factors that contribute to proper heart function. Talk to your physician about your heart health and steps you can take to keep your heart healthy and strong.